Well, hello. Welcome back to the Old New Radio Show, or welcome if you're new. Your host today is me, Stellar, and today we'll be discussing something all of us have gone through and majority of us hates with a burning passion: the school education system in the United States. Time of school has been a usual mood as rates of pressure in the system have been down as usual because of scholars now wanting to actually participate in school. We will discuss every line of why they don't want to be in school right after this. So for everyone who's been watching my Instagram that is viewing this episode now, I have very good news. The final prototype of the Stellar Slayer merge has been made and or printed. I'll show a picture on my Instagram and a poll if you want to purchase the Intel. If I could get up to 50 responses that says a yes, then I will release a official merch product. I don't know how long it will take specifically, but we will see in due time. And with that out of the way, so I don't need to be a scientist and study rocket science to understand that the school education system has become a bastardized version of what it was sought to be. The main ideology or goal for the system in its entirety was to be a home away from home. But the only thing school did for the US scholars was made them angry and miserable every fucking weekday. Every single weekday, scholars would come home from memorizing useless facts and lectures that won't even help us understand what, in the name of everything holy, the Pythagorean theorem is going to do with our jobs. Seriously, man. With that being said, what is the purpose of school entirely? Because we all need to clarify that in order to debunk its weakness, which is everything. So the actual definition from Webster's dictionary is a institution dedicated to teaching students of various subjects such as mathematics, reading, science, and world history and or social studies. Now, I understand what the institutions are trying to do. They're trying to get scholars involved with knowledge and understand the world. And I can honestly respect that. I would like to make people involved with various things to get them interested, but they missed on a very crucial detail in making the system, and that's making the subject fucking appealing. There's a thin line between educating and yapping. With that being said, I don't necessarily blame the teachers. I blame the people who not only created the education system, but the people who also run the education system. And it goes without saying, but the system needs a complete overdue and a major overhaul. But we also need to make the education system better than it is today. And before you go into comments and Facebook ranting about how I'm wrong and saying, well, if you insult the education system, you must have a solution. Well, my dear viewers, we're going to explain the system solutions right now. Firstly, we need to talk about the financial branch of the education system. And in order to fix it, we need to increase funding for all schools. The funding and the amount of schools receive per year is little to absolutely nothing. And along with the government shutdown, we need to, like I said, fund the schools way more. Alright, what's next on the list? Yeah. The funding and the amounts of schools receive per year is little to absolutely nothing. If we're going to accomplish anything in our system, our very first priority is to fund the schools. And there is more to fund in the system, like janitors, teachers, bus drivers, maintenance workers, culinary servers, and that's just to name a very small few. When we get the funds out of the way, our very next priority is training the staff and faculty who are applying to schools. We need to invest in the actual training in small details they do. We can't just say, here's money, do your job. We can't do that. We have to say, okay, you need to do this and this and this and this and this in order to actually be successful. We need to invest in training, proper equipment, and classes in order to teach and train the employees to do their job so that we can run a smooth operation at all times. Once the funding and training is complete, we need a complete redo of the timing and scheduling of the jobs. If they can't get enough sleep or food or even time to themselves, we cannot expect much because as the bosses and administrators of the education department, we need to value and respect employee health in order to make them actually ready to do their job. And not only that, we need to make it into a way that they are happy to do their job, not just by tolerance, but by respect and actually joy in doing their job. Following the schedule of the faculty, we also need to adjust what time school starts and ends for students. We will need to factor in time and sleep, which is around 10 hours, plus enough time for themselves. We'll add another 5 hours. So according to our estimations, schools will begin at a later time, insist around 1100, and then the end should be around 1500. A 6 hour day, which should be perfect. And I say should, but I'm not sure. This is just my set of things. Anyways, now we have the school start up and shut down complete. Now we need to just discuss within the classes, not just the times, but what the classes should actually teach. So we need to have the 4 core curriculum classes. That's my opinion. That's safety, which is pretty much common sense. I'll explain on that later. Driving, finance, and mental health. Again, I'll explain all those in a little bit. And priority courses for college. And the military or the actual workforce. Yeah, I forgot about those, my bad. Each class would provide the necessary skill for students will need to be prepared for. Let's go for the individual classes. The safety preparatory course class would be essential for many different types of safety involving certain situations such as medicine, first aid, and how to prevent accidents from happening. We would use real world scenarios to actively show students on how to perform the necessary task to keep themselves and others safe at all times, because safety should be the number one priority in any job or even thought. Everyone needs to ask the question to themselves, how can I, as an individual, keep the other people safe and get the task done as quickly and as safely as possible? Because like I said again, safety should be the number one priority. The driving preparatory course class would be essential for young teens to learn the values of driving anywhere. We would teach them how to operate different vehicles and educate them on what types, classes, licenses, restrictions, rules, and punishments are imposed if not followed by the law. We would also teach the scholars what type of vehicle is the best starter car or truck for themselves. And I understand that every scholar would drive differently, like me. I would start on a truck, but other students might start on like cars and stuff. And it could be unique for everyone, and that's fine. The finance preparatory course class would educate scholars on many branches of finance, such as how taxes work, credit and debit cards, bills, and among countless other branches of finance. We'd also teach on investments, how to retire early in order for them to live the best life possible. We should be teaching scholars the very things they need about money in general and finance. And my reason for this is we need to teach scholars how to be financially stable instead of just a vague go to college and be a doctor, be a lawyer. We have to teach them like the little secrets that nobody talks about. Among all those other classes, we would need a mental health preparatory class taught by a professional therapist. We would teach them subjects like how to handle emotions and how to control what they think in order not to go insane. We believe that a health class would be beneficial because they could use a relaxation and teachings that scholars might need. And that's not only for scholars, adults also could really benefit from mental health. Honest to God, you never know what scholars are going through. So we need to make school as smooth for them as possible. Finally, we need to add a preparatory class for the scholars going after high school, or where they're going after high school. We need to teach them about college and military trade school and how to move on from high school to those paths in life. We need to make sure they can be able to move on and adapt from scholars to young men or women in the field. In this program, we can have students to be better and more prepared for the years and years after high school. Well, that's today's rant. Thank you so much for listening in on this episode. Do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow for weekly or 2 weekly episodes. You can unsubscribe in the future. You can change your mind. Also, check out the link below for my Instagram page and my future updates on the merchandise. Anyways, Stellar out.